Welcome back in to Sick'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Paul, Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak is off today. Let's go to the phones and text 254-339-1122. That is the BetUS caller line. Use promo code Sick'em125 at BetUS for 125% bonus. Let's go to Matt McBrayer. Matt, you're on Sick'em 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey, fellas, what's going on today?
Hey, Matt.
Good. Listen, I just want to know kind of where you think Baylor's going to land, especially after the whole NCAA thing. I mean, gosh, it's been, 6 years or 7 years since they started saying, oh, well, we're going to punish you guys. Just give us some time to investigate. Yeah, I know a lot of people have had kids and gotten married, and I finished not only my undergraduate degree, but finished seminary at Baylor by the time they finished the investigation. So that tells you a little something about the NCAA and their expediency regarding a lot of investigations. Listen, I just want to know what you guys think about, Baylor as a whole is a really attractive program, I think, and I'd love to hear where you guys think we'll land, whether it'll be, I think that Pac-20 thing is just kind of a pipe dream, but it seems to make some sense in a way. If you don't know what that is, it's like they would divide, the four, or if they divide the Pac-12 into four groups of 5 teams, and the Big 12 would join that, the remaining 8, and then it would just be a mega conference like none other, and you'd have one section play a whole nother section in their own section every season. So just want to get your thoughts on that.
All right, Matt, thanks for your call. I actually think that the Pac-20 thing is, while it might seem like a pipe dream, I think that's probably the best option they have for TV money. Is that because it would encapsulate so many different wide variety of schools. And so you could say, like, this is a huge conference. It's the western half of the country, essentially, that cares about it. There's going to be matchups that you're not going to see all the time. There's, 4 or 5 team pods means that year to year your scheduling is going to be kind of wild. So, I could get behind that one. I think that one, I like that one the best for, as far as if I'm a TV network, that to me makes the most sense money-wise.
Yeah, that is one that's definitely of interest. I don't know where that's actually heading, the whole Pac-12 thing. That's kind of cooled down over the last few days. We haven't heard, it was weird the first week of realignment with Oklahoma and Texas. Every day after that for about a week straight, there was something involved in the Big Ten and what they were doing. There was something involved in the Pac-12 and what they were doing. There was something involved in the ACC and what they were doing. And now it's been about 5 days. I haven't seen a single new thing reported. So, this whole thing has cooled off immensely, although there still obviously remains the conversations. For Baylor, I'll say as far as the investigation goes, that's one big black mark that you can take away from them now, or take off of their record, that maybe if you were some of these other conferences you were looking around, the whole Baptist institution and the Baptist basis, that's not going to go away. So that was a hindrance for somebody like the Pac-12. Well, that's going to continue to be a hindrance. But if there did happen to be a conference out there that was looking at Baylor and saying, well, really good basketball program on both the men's and women's, really good football program at times. If they just had some dadgum consistency for more than 2 years, I think they'd be a really good football program. They've just changed coaches so many times in the last decade that it's been hard to just even have an identity that lasts more than 2 seasons. But I think they're an attractive school. I think they're unique in that they are a private institution. Some people may look at that as a hindrance. I look at that as actually some uniqueness and not being exactly like everybody else and just being state school U and all of that. But I know not everybody looks at that favorably, but they're not going to change that either. So if it's a hindrance, it's just going to be a hindrance, and they're not going to change who they are to get into a conference. So I think not having that investigation out there any longer, and the fact that it's now been tied up and then all the loose ends have been tied, I think that only benefits them moving forward. Is it enough to propel them into a conference? I don't know, because again, I don't know what these conferences are really even looking for. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking for a school that's going to come in and is going to be competitive in pretty much every sport, it's going to, have some money behind it, but maybe not massive TV ratings. Although Baylor actually, depending on the matchup, does pretty okay in some of their games. That hasn't, their small size hasn't been a hindrance as long as the matchups are pretty large. But I I do think it makes them a much more attractive school. Let's say that. It makes them a much more attractive candidate to not have that hanging over their heads and dragging out for several more years. I mean, now it's a clean slate, so to speak, so long as they don't screw up again. And I'm pretty confident in the leadership they have now that won't be the case. So I'd love to narrow it down, but I just don't know. I could see them in the ACC as a great fit. I could see them in the Pac-12 as a fit. I could see them in the, whatever conference as a fit. I think they could fit anywhere. I just don't know who's actually interested.
Yeah. And to the NCAA question, I think what the NCAA thing now is, look, the member institutions know. I mean, they're privy to more information than, John Q. Fan is. But obviously this report's online, but Baylor can now say to anybody if Cal wants to know what Baylor's done to solve their problem, they can be like, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's the whole thing. Here's what's going to happen. I mean, so that's what that does. But the NCAA not hanging over them is good in that, now you're not going to have a team that's going to be, on a bowl ban the first 2 years in the league.
Right.
That does you no good.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge for them, just regardless, just knowing what their future looks like in terms of what they're going to have to deal with scholarships or recruiting visits and all of that. And I like I said, I do think it's a positive for them in this realignment shuffle, and that this is now out of the way. It's been closed. It's been cleared up, and now they can move forward as an institution. So I think it makes them more attractive enough to want to be poached by some of these other conferences. I don't know about that just yet, and I hear all the reasons for why all these other schools make sense in all these other places. But we just had the K-State guy on, and he's even saying that Kansas Big Ten stuff, I'm not really buying that. And I was saying that last week. I was just like, that sounds more like wishful thinking, sort of like the West Virginia ACC stuff. There's just not enough to actually chew on that makes you believe that that's anywhere near happening. But who knows? I mean, in this world we're living in, obviously tomorrow we could hear that West Virginia and Kansas are backdoor into the Big Ten or something like that. But I mean, if you look at Baylor as an athletics program, which is what this is basically all based around, they're obviously not Oklahoma and Texas, but I'd say they're more attractive than K-State is. I'd say they're more attractive than TCU is. I'd say they're more attractive than Kansas is. I think they're probably, West Virginia's got a much larger fan base, but as far as competitive, they're in that same vicinity. Oklahoma State, I think, would be more attractive. Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech's got the size, but they don't have the success over Baylor. So I think the only ones that are definitively better schools to choose than Baylor would be probably Oklahoma State and maybe Iowa State right now. And I'm only saying that because their football program's good. And that's the only reason why, because they're not better in basketball. They're not better in most any other sport. They're just right now they're better in football. And that's really it. And they have, and obviously Baylor's going to be outsized by a lot of these schools outside of TCU, who they're larger than. But athletically, I think they stack up as well as anybody. So if that's what you're looking for, then they should be one of the top candidates at the top of the list from the Big 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the thing is that anytime you hear this rumor about, Kansas is a great fit here, or West Virginia is a great fit here, you're really only talking geography
or one sport.
Yeah, one sport. But and you're also just talking geography.
Yeah, it's mostly geography.
And as we've seen, geography is probably not going to matter much in this. Not that Austin is all that far away from a lot of these places, but look, there. 20 years ago, the thought of a team from Austin going to Knoxville, to play midweek volleyball games would be like, no. I mean, that'd be once in a while, kind of a thing, but not every year you're going to do that. And so that the geography doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it doesn't. West Virginia proves that geography doesn't matter. And if the Big 12 and the Pac-12 merged and West Virginia had to go play half their games on the West Coast, they'd be fine with it. They're going to do it. I mean, it's going to suck. It's an annoyance, but those things will all come out in the wash.
I don't know. I think it matters. I don't think it matters from the standpoint of it would prevent them from doing it. But why would it not prevent them from doing it? Because they have no other choice.
Yeah.
If they had any choice that was closer, guess which one they would pick? They'd pick the one closer. So I think that location does matter, and I think you would see it matter a hell of a lot more when we got into baseball season and basketball season, and you're watching the Mountaineers, men and women, on a Tuesday or Wednesday night going to, Palo Alto to play a women's basketball game. That's going to matter, and that's going to hurt the fan base because they're not going to be able to swing that on a regular basis. But again, if it's your only choice, then sure, it doesn't matter, because what else are you going to do? You're going to drop down a level and play SFA on a regular basis? Well, that's not going to be worth your while. So, yeah, you're going to go travel cross-country to California if you have to do that. But, it would matter. It would matter as far as road attendance, and it would matter as far as expenses, and it would matter as far as, some other things as well. But yeah, if that's your only choice, then that's the one you'll take. And Matt, do appreciate the call. I wish I could narrow down like a better choice for you as far as Baylor and where they would fit in. But really, it's really just a matter of kind of like West Virginia. Who wants them? Because that'll be your answer. Where do they want to go? They want to go to where they're wanted, basically. That's the answer to that question. And I don't know if that's the Pac-12 right now. It doesn't appear to be. ACC, have no idea what they're cooking or planning right now. Big Ten, that's not going to happen. SEC, that's not going to happen. So, one option that's out there is just hanging in there and just letting this thing play out, because I've said a dozen times now at this point over the last month, no one expected or predicted the Oklahoma-Texas thing, and then that totally reset all the pieces on the board, and now we're trying to figure out what the next thing is going to be that's going to reset all those pieces to the board, but that might not happen in the next month. It could happen tomorrow. It might not happen for a year. So until we have a little more clarity on who might actually be looking around on the move, but more importantly, who's actually interested in those teams that might be looking to move, until we know more about that, then